It's fascinating. You see these tech startups hit this incredible acceleration, this phase we call hypergrowth. It's kind of like watching a rocket launch, full of potential.
Totally.
But the thing is, for everyone that reaches orbit, there are many others that experience a far less smooth ride, maybe even a premature ending.
That's such a key point.
Yeah.
Hypergrowth isn't just about explosive numbers. It's a really delicate and often precarious stage.
Right.
For this deep dive, we've gathered a range of viewpoints to help you understand this critical juncture. We're looking at a Forbes article that really drills down into the potential traps, an exploring topics list showcasing companies, in the thick of this rapid expansion.
Okay.
And some strategic perspectives from McKinsey & Company and Webflow on how to not only achieve hypergrowth, but also sustain it.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, we're bringing insights from a seasoned startup growth leader and the broad view of startup genome.
Exactly. So you, as someone clearly interested in the mechanics of growth, might be wondering what truly ignites this kind of rapid ascent, and more importantly, what are the hidden dangers? The things that can derail even the most promising trajectories.
Yeah.
You're looking to get a real understanding, and our aim is to give you those aha moments by cutting through the noise and focusing on what really matters. We've analyzed the expert warnings, the real-world examples, and the research-backed strategies to give you, hopefully, a clear picture.
Our mission here is pretty straightforward: to equip you with a solid grasp of hypergrowth in tech startups. We'll define what it actually means, highlight those common pitfalls the Forbes piece lays out so clearly, and then crucially delve into the key strategies from organizations like McKinsey and Webflow to help navigate this intense period successfully.
Okay, so when we talk about hypergrowth, what are the fundamental characteristics? What does it really look like on the ground?
Well, drawing from bodies like the World Economic Forum and Ideamotive, this isn't just a temporary spike. Hypergrowth is defined as a sustained average annual growth rate of somewhere in the range of, say, 20 to 40%.
Wow.
Or even a steeper 40% or more, according to Ideamotive. And this pace needs to be maintained for more than just a single year. It's a significant and prolonged period of rapid expansion.
That level of sustained growth sounds incredibly demanding.
It is. It's characterized by this rapid surge in sales revenue and a real building of momentum in the market. But, and this is a crucial but, it also inevitably brings with it a significant and often rapid increase in costs.
Right.
So it's a period of intense and multifaceted change that, if managed astutely, can indeed propel a company into, a new orbit.
So what are the underlying drivers? What do the companies that successfully navigate this phase seem to have in their DNA?
Webflow points to a few really key attributes. First and foremost, they highlight inspiring products and services, things that genuinely connect with customers and solve real problems for them.
Okay.
It's more than just having a functional product. It's about deeply understanding your audience and constantly refining your brand and offering to truly capture their imagination and, build lasting loyalty. You can't have hypergrowth if what you're offering doesn't truly resonate.
That makes perfect sense. You can't have that kind of explosive growth if people aren't clamoring for what you've got.
Exactly. Second, Webflow emphasizes a deeply data-driven approach. These companies aren't just flying by the seat of their pants. They have a really firm handle on what's actually working and, just as importantly, what isn't delivering results. This requires meticulous tracking of key metrics, rigorous analysis of the data, and a willingness to be agile and pivot your strategy when the evidence suggests a change in direction is needed. There's less room for pure intuition at this stage.
So while those early gut feelings might get you started, sustained hypergrowth demands a more evidence-based approach.
Precisely. And third, and this is often an overlooked element, successful hypergrowth companies place a high value on their employees and actively cultivate a healthy and supportive company culture.
Culture.
Yeah. This includes creating effective incentives, fostering an environment where open and honest communication is not just welcomed but expected, and ensuring that the intense pace of growth doesn't come at the expense of the well-being and engagement of the very people driving that growth.
Okay, so we're talking about compelling offerings, making decisions based on solid data, and having a strong, motivated team. That paints a picture of what successful hypergrowth looks like. Now, let's delve into the potential pitfalls. That Forbes article you mentioned laid out a pretty extensive list of traps, right? Things that can snag even the most promising startups during this rapid expansion.
Yes, the Forbes piece really provides a valuable cautionary perspective. One of the first dangers they highlight is losing focus on the core product. The intense energy of hypergrowth can create a real temptation to diversify too quickly, to chase every new idea that surfaces. But the core message here is the importance of prioritizing your resources, staying true to your established roadmap,
Right.
and ensuring that the foundational product or service that fueled your initial success continues to be refined and improved. If you dilute your efforts, you risk weakening the very thing that, the thing that got you to this point.
That makes a lot of sense. You don't want to spread your resources so thin that you compromise the quality of what made you successful in the first place. What's another common misstep?
Another really critical area is neglecting company culture. When you're bringing in a large number of new employees in a short period, it can be easy for those early cultural values and norms to become diluted or even lost.
Yeah, I can see that.
This can lead to a lack of alignment within the team, increased friction, and even burnout among your key people. The solution, as Forbes emphasizes, is to proactively communicate and reinforce your core values, and to make cultural fit a key consideration in your hiring process. Rapid growth shouldn't come at the cost of the very foundation your company is built upon.
Culture is so often cited as crucial, especially when the pressure cooker of hypergrowth is on. What about the fundamentals of the business model itself? Is that a risk area?
Definitely. Forbes points to the risk of scaling revenue without a solid business model. The thinking might be, if we just acquire more customers and generate more revenue, any underlying issues will eventually resolve themselves.
Risky thinking.
Very. Because if your fundamental business model isn't profitable or sustainable, then rapid scaling will simply amplify those underlying weaknesses and accelerate the path to failure. The key is to ensure you have a robust and profitable model established before you aggressively pursue growth, and to continuously monitor your financial health. Growth for growth's sake can be a dangerous trap.
So, chasing high revenue numbers without a healthy foundation is just, a recipe for trouble. Forbes also mentioned expanding too quickly in a more general sense. How does that usually play out?
This can take several forms. It could be hiring too many people before your internal processes are ready to effectively onboard and integrate them.
Right.
Or it could be launching new product lines or entering new markets before you've truly perfected your core offering. Forbes even references this idea that sometimes boring equals billions.
I like that.
Yeah, it highlights that consistently executing on a proven model can be far more valuable than constantly chasing the next shiny object or prematurely scaling beyond your capacity.
Boring equals billions. That's a really interesting counterpoint to the typical high-growth narrative. What other potential pitfalls did Forbes highlight? Any tech-specific ones?
They did discuss the dangers of misusing AI. In today's environment, AI is a major buzzword, right?
For sure.
And there's a strong temptation for companies to adopt it simply because it's the current trend, without a clear understanding of the value it will actually drive. Forbes cautions against this, emphasizing that AI should be strategically integrated to genuinely enhance your product, service, or operations, focusing on delivering tangible, long-term impact, rather than just creating short-term hype or marketing buzz.
So AI needs to be a real engine of value creation, not just a fashionable add-on. Makes sense.
Exactly. Then there's the fundamental issue of expanding without established processes. If you try to scale rapidly without putting in place solid and scalable operational foundations, you're almost guaranteed to run into inefficiencies, quality control problems, and ultimately customer dissatisfaction.
Yeah, chaos.
Pretty much. The advice here is to prioritize building those scalable systems and to invest in recruiting and developing the talent needed to manage them effectively as you grow.
You can't just throw more people at problems if you don't have the underlying structure to support them.
Precisely. And this connects directly to the idea of overlooking operational scalability. Neglecting critical areas like your technology infrastructure, the implementation of automation tools, or even just efficient workflows can lead to a decline in service quality, increased employee burnout as they struggle with inefficient systems, and ultimately a negative impact on your customer experience as things become more complex with scale. Forbes stresses the importance of proactively investing in these areas.
It's all about building that robust backbone that can support significant growth without cracking. Interestingly, Forbes also brought up the flip side, the idea of being too cautious. That seems almost paradoxical in a hypergrowth scenario.
It does sound counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But the point Forbes makes is that in the face of rapid growth, some companies become overly risk-averse. They focus solely on maintaining the current momentum and shy away from anything that might introduce uncertainty. However, This reluctance to take calculated risks can actually stifle innovation and limit your potential for significant breakthroughs. The advice is to cultivate a culture that embraces experimentation and views failure not as a disaster, but as a valuable learning opportunity within reasonable bounds, of course.
So it's a delicate balance between reckless expansion and being so risk-averse that you miss out on game-changing opportunities. What else should companies be mindful of?
Forbes also warns about not having a solid operational foundation in the first place. Trying to scale on a shaky or inadequate base is almost a guarantee of poor product quality, dissatisfied customers, and ultimately long-term viability issues. They really emphasize the need to solidify that foundation before you start aggressively ramping up your growth efforts.
Build strong before you build big, essentially. Got it.
Exactly. Then there's the challenge of allowing staff growth to outpace your ability to deliver. As the old saying goes, just adding more people doesn't automatically translate to a proportional increase in output, especially when dealing with complex intellectual work.
Right, the mythical man month.
Exactly. It can sometimes lead to increased communication overhead and decreased efficiency if not managed well. The key is to prioritize the development of scalable onboarding processes so that new hires can quickly become productive and integrated into the team.
That echoes the importance of having those solid processes in place. What about the mindset of pursuing extremely rapid scaling at all costs, sometimes referred to as blitzscaling? Did Forbes touch on that?
They did. They touch on the idea of blitzscaling before having the necessary infrastructure in place. This is the approach where companies prioritize speed of growth and capturing market share above all else, even if their underlying operations aren't running smoothly or efficiently.
Kind of like building the plane while flying it.
Sort of, yeah. And while there's a logic to trying to establish a dominant position quickly, it's a risky strategy if you haven't built a sufficiently robust foundation to support that scale. You might be able to address operational issues later, but you risk significant damage in the meantime. Reputational damage, customer churn.
So prioritizing breakneck speed shouldn't come at the expense of a functional and stable business.
Absolutely not. Another common issue they highlight is fragmenting operations. In the intense push to scale, companies can often end up with a collection of disjointed systems, a lack of integration between different departments, and inefficient workflows, like silos everywhere.
Yeah, that sounds messy.
It is. The advice is to prioritize building flexible and integrated systems from the outset, systems that can adapt and evolve as your business grows. They even mention the sustainability sector as an example, where a more deliberate and integrated approach to digitizing energy systems creates a more resilient long-term foundation.
That makes sense. A unified and cohesive operational structure is just more adaptable in the long run. What about the technology itself as a company scales? Any specific pitfalls there?
Oh yeah. Forbes emphasizes the importance of failing to address tech debt. As you grow rapidly, there can be a temptation to take shortcuts in your technology infrastructure just to meet immediate needs. Quick fixes, less than ideal solutions.
Cutting corners.
Exactly. This accumulation of tech debt can significantly hinder your team's productivity and your ability to innovate down the line. The advice is to prioritize building a solid and well-maintained IT backbone from the very beginning. Your core platforms, automation capabilities, codified controls. Ignoring tech debt is like ignoring necessary maintenance on your car. It will eventually catch up with you, probably at the worst possible time.
Ignoring those underlying tech issues can really slow you down when you need to be moving fast. Good point. What else did Forbes point out regarding underestimation?
They mention underestimating the ability to scale beyond your initial core. Just because you've achieved product market fit and early success in your initial customer segment doesn't automatically mean that scaling to entirely new segments or markets will be straightforward.
Ah, yeah. Different customers, different needs.
Right. Companies need to intentionally strategize and figure out how to effectively reach and serve a broader audience, which might require entirely new approaches, new messaging, maybe even product tweaks.
So success in one area doesn't guarantee automatic success in others. A deliberate strategy for broader scaling is essential.
Exactly. And as a company scales, failing to maintain service quality is a major, major danger. It becomes increasingly challenging to keep pace with growing demand while still providing the same level of high-quality support and attention that your early customers appreciated and probably evangelized about.
That loyalty is fragile.
Very. Forbes stresses the importance of proactively building robust customer support systems, ensuring your technology can scale to handle increased volume, and continuously training your team to maintain those high standards. Customer satisfaction simply cannot be a casualty of rapid growth.
Keeping your customers happy should remain a top priority no matter how fast you're growing.
Absolutely. What about the external environment and the allure of new trends? Any dangers there? They cautioned against pursuing the wrong trends. When a new technology or market trend emerges, think Web3 a couple years ago, now maybe AI everywhere. There's often a strong temptation to abandon your core values and jump on the bandwagon, even if it doesn't truly align with your company's mission and long-term vision.
Chasing shiny objects again.
Pretty much. The advice is to critically assess whether a trend genuinely fits with your purpose and strategic direction. Chasing fleeting opportunities that aren't aligned with your core can be a significant distraction and ultimately detrimental.
Staying true to your core mission and values is crucial, even when exciting new possibilities arise. Okay, let's circle back to the human element, specifically the challenges around hiring during hypergrowth that came up earlier.
Yes, and lacking discipline in hiring is another significant pitfall Forbes flagged. When you're under pressure to fill a large number of roles quickly, there's a temptation to cut corners in your hiring process, maybe lower your standards just to get bodies in seats.
Bad hires are costly.
Extremely. Bringing on the wrong people can not only damage your company culture, but also negatively impact the quality of your customer experience. Forbes even suggests that sometimes it's necessary to intentionally slow down your rate of growth to ensure you're bringing on the right talent. Haste makes waste is definitely applicable here.
Rushing the hiring process can definitely lead to longer-term problems. And what about the financial aspects of hypergrowth? Spending, specifically.
Forbes warns against spending aggressively without careful control. Startups in hypergrowth mode often significantly increase their spending to fuel that expansion on marketing, sales, new hires, infrastructure, you name it.
Got to spend money to make money, right?
To an extent, yes, investment is necessary. But uncontrolled spending can lead to serious financial strain, increased debt, and even the need for additional funding rounds that can dilute the ownership of the original founders and early employees. Careful and strategic financial control is absolutely crucial. It's not just about the top line. The bottom line matters too.
So it's not just about securing more funding, it's about managing those resources wisely and sustainably. What's another common misconception that Forbes highlighted?
They address the danger of relying on the build it and they will come mentality. While having a truly innovative and valuable product or service is essential, it's simply not enough on its own, especially in a crowded market.
Agreed. Distribution is key.
Absolutely. Leaders need to proactively develop and execute robust customer acquisition and retention strategies right from the very beginning. You need a clear plan for how you're going to get your product into the hands of your target audience and, importantly, keep them coming back. A great product needs a great go-to-market strategy.
A fantastic product won't sell itself. A well-thought-out strategy for reaching customers is paramount. And finally, what's the last pitfall that Forbes mentioned? Seems like we've covered a lot.
The last big one is the danger of losing sight of your mission and values amidst the whirlwind of rapid scaling. When everything's moving so fast, it's easy for that core purpose to get lost in the shuffle.
How do you prevent that?
Well, Forbes suggests making the active promotion and reinforcement of your company's mission and core values a key metric, maybe even in employee performance evaluations. They also recommend establishing feedback loops, ways for employees to feel safe voicing concerns if they perceive the company drifting away from its foundational principles. Keep the why alive.
Those are certainly a lot of potential minefields to navigate. It's clear that hypergrowth is far more than just stepping on the accelerator. Okay, so let's pivot. Enough warnings. What are the proactive strategies? What can startups actually do to not only achieve hypergrowth, but to manage it effectively and sustainably? McKinsey & Company and Webflow offered some really insightful perspectives here, right?
Absolutely. McKinsey strongly emphasizes a people-centric approach, basically stating that it's all about the people. This covers everything from talent acquisition and development to effective leadership, a clear sense of purpose, and again, a strong company culture. They point out that as you scale rapidly, those informal, instinct-driven approaches to hiring and talent planning that might have worked in the early days, they just won't cut it anymore.
Need more structure.
Exactly. You need to implement formal processes to systematically assess your talent needs, identify skills gaps, and proactively recruit individuals with the necessary expertise. They also highlight the importance of clearly defining the unique employee value proposition for each role to attract the right kind of people.
So being very intentional and strategic about your talent acquisition is crucial as you scale. What about the role of leadership itself? Does that need to change?
McKinsey notes that the type of leadership required often evolves significantly during hypergrowth. The initial founders, the early pioneers, they need to transition into more of a town builder role.
Town builder. Interesting metaphor.
Yeah, it's about creating the structures, the systems, and developing the next generation of leaders. They suggest that it's common for different leaders to emerge, some focusing on driving continued growth, others on ensuring smooth and efficient operations. A critical step for founder CEOs is often learning to delegate effectively and, crucially, developing the leadership capabilities within their growing team. McKinsey shared compelling examples: an Indian food delivery platform, a medtech company that proactively implemented leadership development programs to build these essential skills internally.
So it's about building a leadership team that can effectively steer the ship through increasingly complex waters, not just relying on the founder. And how does the company's purpose factor into sustained hypergrowth, according to McKinsey? Can that get lost?
It absolutely can. McKinsey emphasizes that the initial strong sense of purpose that often fuels early-stage startups can become diluted or less visible as the organization rapidly expands and brings on many new employees who weren't there for the founding story.
Right, they don't have that initial context.
Exactly. They argue that founder CEOs need to consciously and repeatedly reinforce the why behind the company's existence in all their communications, during the onboarding process for new hires, and even in performance reviews. They shared a powerful example of a travel platform that leaned heavily on its core purpose during the huge disruptions of the COVID-19 pandemic. That purpose guided its strategic decisions and actually strengthened its relationships with stakeholders.
So keeping that fundamental mission front and center, especially when navigating challenging periods, is key. And what about the crucial element of company culture as you scale? We talked about neglecting it as a pitfall.
Right, and McKinsey stresses that you can't simply assume your company culture will automatically scale in a positive way. It requires intentional nurturing and reinforcement.
How do you do that intentionally?
Well, it involves clearly defining the key behaviors and values that are essential for the company's continued success, ensuring that leaders consistently role model these behaviors, and establishing formal mechanisms to recognize and reward those who embody the desired culture. They highlighted the importance of fostering a culture characterized by agility, individual ownership, and a data-driven mindset. They gave examples of companies that successfully dismantled data silos and provided broad access to data across the organization, empowering everyone.
Making data accessible. Interesting.
Yeah, and they also suggest leveraging tools like pulse surveys and digital dashboards to continuously monitor and improve the health of the company culture. You need to measure it, basically.
So culture needs to be treated as a strategic imperative, just as important as hitting revenue targets or developing new products. And how does the flow of information and communication need to adapt during this rapid growth phase? Can't just yell across the room anymore.
Definitely not. McKinsey underscores the increasing need for more formal and structured communication channels as the company scales. Those informal, ad hoc conversations that were sufficient in the early days will no longer effectively reach everyone.
Things fall through the cracks.
Exactly. You need to implement more systematic approaches, regular town hall meetings, company-wide newsletters, more structured one-on-one conversations between managers and their teams, and well-defined processes for board meetings and executive updates. They even mentioned the potential value of a chief of staff role to help the founder CEO manage these growing communication demands and ensure key information flows effectively throughout the organization.
Right, like an air traffic controller for information. Okay, it's about making sure everyone remains informed and aligned as the team grows exponentially. Now let's look at Webflow's perspective. They outlined 5 key hypergrowth strategies. What are those?
Webflow's first crucial strategy is customer centricity. They emphasize that companies experiencing successful hypergrowth prioritize developing high-impact strategies for acquiring new customers and, maybe even more importantly, focus relentlessly on providing genuine value and effective solutions to their customers' problems.
Customer obsession.
Pretty much. They highlighted Stripe as a prime example. Its intense focus on improving the user experience for developers really fueled its remarkable growth trajectory.
Okay, placing the customer experience at the very heart of your growth strategy makes sense. What's their second key strategy?
Agility. Webflow stresses the importance of cultivating an organizational culture that can respond rapidly to changes in market trends, scale its operations swiftly to meet growing demand, and be prepared to pivot its strategy as needed based on new information or evolving market dynamics. They specifically mention the Agile methodology as a valuable framework for structuring business operations in a flexible and adaptive manner.
Being nimble and having the capacity to change course quickly when necessary, crucial. What's Webflow's third strategy for achieving hypergrowth?
Scalable business systems. This really resonates with some of the points Forbes made about operational scalability, right?
Yeah, feels connected.
Webflow emphasizes that your underlying business model, your team structure and culture, and your overall company structure need to be intentionally designed from the outset with the capacity for rapid expansion in mind, without sacrificing efficiency or quality as you grow. You have to build for scale.
Building your foundational systems and structures with future scale as a core consideration. Got it. What's the fourth strategy that Webflow suggests?
Disruptive technology. They argue that companies that achieve hypergrowth often have a product, service, or underlying technology that fundamentally shifts the market or creates a significant change in the competitive landscape of their industry.
A game changer.
Exactly. They used Zapier, with its innovative approach to automating workflows between different applications, as a compelling example of a disruptive technology that fueled rapid and significant growth. It solved a problem lots of people had in a new way.
Having an offering that truly changes the game and creates new possibilities makes sense that would drive growth. And finally, what's Webflow's fifth key hypergrowth strategy?
High employee retention. They underscore the critical importance of building a strong and positive company culture characterized by appreciation for employees' contributions, strong internal cooperation, and mutual respect.
Back to people again.
Always back to people. Retaining talented and engaged employees not only reduces the significant costs and disruptions associated with constant employee turnover, but it also ensures you maintain the valuable knowledge, the institutional memory, and the expertise within your organization as you scale.
So a happy, engaged, and loyal workforce is a vital ingredient for sustained hypergrowth. Okay, we also gained some practical insights from Lomit Patel on specific strategies for success. What were his key recommendations? Felt very hands-on.
Yeah, Lomit Patel outlined 5 key strategies. The first is streamlining operations by actively optimizing your internal processes, automating repetitive tasks wherever possible, and implementing business systems that are designed for scalability.
Tools and processes.
Right. He mentioned a range of specific tools that can be invaluable here. Project management platforms like Asana and Trello, communication tools like Slack and Microsoft Teams, cloud-based productivity suites like Google Workspace and Microsoft 365, automation platforms like Zapier and Integromat, cloud storage like AWS and Google Cloud, and CRM systems like Salesforce and HubSpot. Basically, leveraging tech.
Leveraging technology to create more efficient and scalable workflows. Makes sense. What was the second strategy?
Fostering a strong startup company culture, which, as we've seen, is a recurring theme across all these perspectives. Patel emphasized the importance of clearly defining your core values, actively promoting teamwork and collaboration, empowering employees to take ownership, and cultivating a supportive and inclusive work environment.
How did he suggest doing that practically?
He offered practical suggestions, like, actually defining and communicating those core values, actively encouraging cross-functional collaboration, investing in employee development and growth opportunities through things like mentorship programs, regularly acknowledging and celebrating achievements, big and small, promoting a healthy work-life balance through flexible arrangements where possible, and creating an inclusive environment through things like diversity and inclusion training initiatives.
Okay, so again, that cultural foundation is consistently highlighted as absolutely essential. What was his third strategy for navigating hypergrowth successfully?
Balancing speed with quality. Patel stressed that while acting quickly is often necessary in a hypergrowth environment, it should never come at the expense of the quality of your product, service, or operations. It's a tightrope walk.
How do you walk that tightrope?
He recommended setting clear priorities, adopting agile methodologies to iterate quickly but effectively, automating repetitive tasks to free up human capital for higher value work, building a scalable technology infrastructure. There it is again. Fostering strong internal collaboration, embracing a mindset of continuous improvement, diligently monitoring key performance indicators, KPIs, and establishing robust feedback channels, both internal and external, to identify and address issues quickly.
So it's a delicate act of moving fast without breaking things or compromising on quality. Got it. What was his fourth strategy for achieving hypergrowth success?
Securing adequate startup funding. Can't grow without fuel. Patel highlighted the critical need to carefully assess your funding requirements, develop a detailed and compelling business plan that outlines your growth strategy, explore a diverse range of potential funding sources, VCs, angels, accelerators, even crowdfunding.
Keep options open.
Exactly. Crafting a strong and persuasive pitch deck that clearly articulates your value proposition and market traction is key, and ensuring transparent and consistent communication with your investors. He also emphasized the importance of diversifying your funding sources if possible, and critically strategically allocating those resources to maximize their impact on your growth. Don't just burn cash randomly.
Fueling the growth engine with the necessary capital while also being strategic about how those funds are deployed makes total sense. And finally, what was Lomit Patel's fifth key strategy?
Adapting proactively to market changes. He emphasized that hypergrowth startups must remain agile and constantly stay informed about evolving industry trends, what their competitors are doing, and most importantly, feedback from their customers. You can't operate in a vacuum.
Stay aware.
Right. He recommended fostering a culture of experimentation. Continuously refine your products and services based on market insights, exploring opportunities to diversify your offerings where it makes sense, actively collaborating with strategic partners, leveraging data-driven insight to inform your decisions, and always keeping the needs and preferences of your customers at the center of your strategy.
Remaining flexible, responsive, and customer-focused in a constantly evolving market landscape.
Okay. We also had some really interesting and very practical considerations from the on-deck experience shared by the boring business nerd. What were the most salient points from their perspective? Sounded like hard-won wisdom. It really did. They offered several really valuable, grounded insights based on direct experience. First, they stressed that momentum is absolutely crucial for hypergrowth startups. Peaks and valleys are pronounced, and once that upward momentum begins to wane, it's incredibly difficult and costly to regain.
Keep the flywheel spinning.
Exactly. Second, they gave very strong advice to maintain a laser focus on your core product and business and actively avoid the temptation of shiny object syndrome, those distracting new opportunities that can pull resources away from what's truly driving your success. Put your A players on the core.
Right. How did they frame that?
They framed it with a compelling logic. Think about the downside. If the core works and the new thing fails, you're probably okay. But the new thing works and the core fails, that's catastrophic.
Powerful framing. Okay, stay relentlessly focused on the engine that's actually driving your growth. What other key lessons did they share?
They highlighted that product market fit is not a static achievement. It can change over time. Market shifts, competitors emerge, customer needs evolve. They advise companies to remain constantly vigilant and skeptical, continuously reassessing whether their product still truly meets the needs of their target market. Misinterpreting a shift in product market fit can be fatal.
Don't get complacent about PMF.
Never. Fourth, they offered a really realistic perspective by stating that in a hyper-growth startup, you should expect things to be constantly on fire to some extent. Your processes, your infrastructure, they inevitably struggle to keep pace with rapid expansion.
Sounds stressful.
It is. But their advice was that sometimes it's strategically wise to let some of the smaller fires burn so that you can focus your limited resources on addressing the larger, more critical issues and building the scalable systems needed for the future. Understand the root causes. Don't just fight symptoms. And importantly, they reminded us that hypergrowth fires are ultimately a better problem to have than no-growth fires.
Perspective. Embracing a certain level of managed chaos while prioritizing the most critical challenges. What other unique insights did they offer?
They made an interesting observation specifically about community as a core business model, noting that it can be particularly challenging to scale successfully within typical venture capital timelines.
Why is that?
The core difficulty lies in scaling the tangible utility and value of the community in direct proportion to the rapid growth in its membership. It's hard to maintain that intimate value as you get huge fast. Finally, they advocated for the importance of making asymmetric bets.
Asymmetric bets, meaning?
Meaning, focusing your efforts and resources on high-potential initiatives that, even if they have a lower probability of success, could yield exceptionally high returns or provide significant clarity and strategic direction for the company. It's about taking calculated risks based on first principles thinking and genuine innovation, rather than just following established playbooks or making incremental improvements. Swing for the fences sometimes.
Some really valuable, real-world, and often counterintuitive lessons there. Okay, now, to make all of this a bit more concrete, The exploding topics list provided us with some fascinating examples of companies that are currently in this phase, experiencing this rapid growth firsthand. Who are some of the notable examples?
Absolutely. Seeing real-world examples really helps solidify these abstract concepts. Perplexity AI, which offers an AI-powered conversational search engine, has demonstrated incredible growth in search volume and has also secured significant funding. Very buzzy right now.
Yeah, hearing a lot about them.
Then there's Cradlewise, a company selling smart bassinets. They've achieved impressive revenue figures in a relatively short time since launching. Shows growth in hardware, too.
Interesting niche.
Totally. Photoroom, an AI-powered photo editing application, has seen massive growth in its user base, and the number of downloads, huge numbers.
Mobile apps still growing fast.
Definitely. Airalo, which provides eSIM services for travelers, has already onboarded millions of users, tapping into that global travel resurgence.
Smart play.
And finally, a fun one, Liquid Death. With its distinctive, kind of rebellious branding for canned water, they've experienced a remarkable increase in revenue and achieved a significant valuation. Shows branding can drive hypergrowth too.
Liquid Death, yeah. Great branding. So a really diverse range of companies spanning different industries and addressing different needs.
Exactly. And that's a key takeaway from the exploding topics list. These fast-growing companies originate from a wide variety of founders, come from diverse backgrounds and geographic locations, and operate in numerous different industries.
So it's not just Silicon Valley sauce.
Not at all. This really underscores the point that hypergrowth isn't limited to a specific type of company or a particular geographic area. It's achievable in various environments with the right combination of factors: product, market, team, timing, and of course, a well-executed strategy.
It's not a one-size-fits-all phenomenon. Success can emerge from many different corners. And finally, we had a brief mention of Startup Genome and their work in this area of hypergrowth. What was the key takeaway there? Sounded like support systems exist.
Yeah, basically, Startup Genome offers specialized programs that are specifically designed to help late-stage startups navigate the complexities of achieving hypergrowth.
What kind of help?
These programs provide valuable resources such as mentorship from experienced professionals, support for international sales expansion, which is often key at that stage, opportunities for peer-to-peer learning and development, learning from others going through it, and access to a global network of potential partners and customers. It basically serves as a valuable resource for listeners who might find themselves currently in the midst of this intense growth phase or aspiring to reach it in the future. You don't have to figure it all out alone.
So there are organizations and resources available to provide guidance and support for companies navigating this challenging but potentially transformative period. Good to know. Well, this has truly been a deep dive into the multifaceted world of hypergrowth. It's abundantly clear that it's a powerful but incredibly intricate phase for tech startups.
It is indeed. And as we've thoroughly explored, it demands a very delicate and continuous balancing act between ambitious growth aspirations and careful strategic management. A deep understanding of the potential pitfalls, like those vividly outlined by Forbes.
Yeah, that list was long.
Coupled with the proactive implementation of well-defined strategies focused on your people, your core operations, your customers, and your fundamental ability to continuously adapt to a dynamic environment, as highlighted by McKinsey, Webflow, Lumba Patel, and others. Those are absolutely essential for achieving sustainable hypergrowth and long-term success, rather than just experiencing a fleeting moment in the spotlight and then flaming out.
Right, sustainability is the key word. So here's a final thought for you, our listener, to really consider. Given the incredibly rapid pace of technological innovation and market disruption that we're currently witnessing, what do you think is the single most underrated factor that will ultimately determine whether a hypergrowth startup not only achieves that rapid acceleration, but also thrives and becomes a lasting success story rather than simply burning out? It's something to really ponder as you reflect on the diverse insights we've unpacked today.